pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from the previous meeting? Then they will stand as presented. Okay, moving on to item 4, which is open forum. So at this point, we would like to give anybody in the community an opportunity to ask any questions or make any comments, so. There you are, hiding behind me.
On the school budget that you, proposal that you presented last week, I was wondering why there's additional staff members on that when our actual number of students has gone down over the last few years, and why it appeared to me that there's going to be more school buses after the budget than there are now for less students than we ever had. So if somebody could explain those things.
Okay, well, the additional staff members were there because they were requested by the administrative team. But if you want more specifics, may I ask our principals to address that?
Well, one of the positions at the high school is specifically related to special education and services that students require based on their IEPs. So it's not really a.
It's not the one required, but I mean that's like we can't do it.
Yeah, that's not really. That position is not really determined by the total number of students. It's more based on what the needs are.
Right, and there are 5 other additional positions, added positions in the budget that I found.
One's a nurse.
The other teaching position is a literacy specialist, and that again is based on literacy services provided to students to support reading. And again, isn't based entirely on the number of students in the district. It's based on need of students in the district. And those are the 2 positions I can speak to.
We have a nursing position, which is again driven by special ed need for a student with a nurse.
Oh, and the TA position is driven by special education.
And the TA position is also driven by special ed need.
Okay, is that helpful?
That was 4, I think, or 5. 4. Yeah, there's one more there somewhere. There were 6 total full-time equivalents added, and if that's required by the state, then I totally understand.
I don't know if they're necessarily required by the state. However, as an administrative team, when we looked at program and delivering the program slightly differently than we have in the past, those were the additions that were recommended based on the current needs of the student and population that we have at this time. In the past, we had made staffing reductions, and at those times it was pretty tight in terms of delivering program. Not necessarily, it was partially driven by decrease in enrollment. However, as we moved forward in fiscals and we have picked up more state aid, we've been able to add back some positions, not necessarily the exact same positions, but positions based on programmatic needs and how we're delivering that program now, which is slightly different than in the past. The busing, Joe, I'll let you round that out. We did have a consultant report that made recommendations.
So we had a consultant that did a transportation study for us. Based on the age and condition of our buses, we're currently scheduled to replace 5 buses, but with this fiscal year, we're going to only replace 4 because the consultant study said that we could actually reduce our fleet size. So we're following through with him. We're surplusing 5 buses at the end of this school year, and we're only replacing it with 4.
So basically, the number next year will be less.
It'll be less than
because of the budget, it looks like we.
Well, it doesn't show that we're surplusing buses in the budget presentation. So yeah, we're getting rid of 5, and then we're going to purchase 4.
Thank you.
May I have your name, please?
Yeah, Cindy.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Moving on to item 5. We have a number of agenda changes. Under item D, excuse me, Mr. David Toro has declined the position, so we will not be approving his position tonight. consent agenda, and there is a walk-on and change under new business. Item A, the amount to be 24 million. And we have added to it an acceptance of the fact-finding report as well as some additional information regarding CPSC recommendations. So that would be for new business. Okay, moving on to awards and recognitions. So, I need a motion to accept the resignation of Anita Miller.
So moved.
Second. Okay,
May I interject and just
absolutely.
So, the title of keyboard specialist doesn't even begin to adequately cover my dance partner's name and title. So, she is the heart and soul of that building, being able to operate on a regular, daily basis, and sometimes at a moment's notice, we are shuffling. And to tell you, the last 3 years, I don't think I would have been able to get through it without her. So I'm sad to see her go, though I appreciate her sticking around as long as she has to help me get my bearings. So again, keyboard specialist, those are some big shoes to fill going forward, and I have pretty high aspirations for whoever comes into that position to be able to do what she does on a daily basis. So just have to say thank you for all those years of service, especially the last 3.
It's a long time to keep everything running smoothly. So, all right, thank you. Any other comments?
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
She's a wonderful person that I've reviewed. She's just great.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes, I'm sure.
Only regrets, right?
Yes, I didn't say anything.
But you think if we denied it, would you keep it stay?
No, next few months would be rough.
Okay, moving on to presentations. I understand we have the art department with us this evening. So take it away, ladies and gentlemen.
Mike, yeah, would you please? Thank you. Hi. Well, thank you for having us tonight. We're very excited about our presentation of the art department. Before we get started, I'm going to make some introductions. So this is Sarah Apker, our elementary school art teacher. Katie Romeo was not here tonight, but she's currently teaching this school year because Sarah is out on maternity leave. Rachel Clappel is teaching in the middle school, and she teaches 2 classes in the high school. I'm Ellen Pennick, and I teach in the high school. And just one thing I want to say before we get started is that we have each developed information for you tonight for our respective buildings. And we've worked collaboratively on the art enrichment slide and where we see our department in the future. So with that said, Sarah's going to begin with what we're doing in the elementary school. So, like Ellen said, thank you for the opportunity to share with you. Elementary school art, so I just wanted to kind of just give a broad overview before we get into the different slides of it. It's a very explorative environment in elementary art. There's lots of new everything going on, new materials that kids are using for the first time, new ideas that are popping up in connections to their everyday life and how to tie it into a process that makes them feel really proud of what they do. Can we just go back one slide? Sorry. So the course load that I teach, we see kindergarten through 4th grade students, and it's set up so I see them once a week for 60 minutes and about 800 or 380 students. So when I begin each school year, I think kind of in terms of how often I'm going to see them, and it breaks down to about 36 times on average. So for an hour, 36 times. So to put that all together from there, so go on to the next slide, sorry. I put it all out in my curriculum, so I want to give them a very broad experience with 2 and 3D materials. So I break it down into 6 units, and so it's drawing, painting, collage, sculpture, ceramics, and printmaking. And then from there, we do 3 projects within each one, so that they can get like a good amount of time with each unit. So then from inside each unit, then so for the next slide, 3 projects. The first one is all about exploring the material and getting familiar with it and getting confident with it. From there, we do a project that touches on a historical or some kind of multicultural perspective so that they can see how it's used or how an idea is kind of implemented or the material is used, throughout time or throughout different cultures. And then the last project, I want them to talk or to reflect more upon their own interests and put it all together. So they're using all their understanding from exploring the materials and from seeing it in other places and then bringing it all back together to themselves. So I asked them this last project lots of guiding questions about themselves, about their interests and the experiences that they have. So all in all, each unit takes about 6 weeks. So from there, that's how they get their understanding from each unit. And then the next slide, we like to display a lot in the elementary. So throughout the hallways, but then also the Cayuga Medical Center in the pediatric wing, there is the small display, and then in the Ulysses Philmathic Library. So those ones are monthly rotational displays when I'm not on maternity leave, so so that's a monthly display, and then my goal with that is that each different classroom gets a month to be highlighted. So each different classroom in each grade has their own separate art show. We do an airport art show in the beginning of the school year, and then the Trumansburg Fair in the summer. So it's really all throughout the year they're really getting a good display. Oh, and then also I forgot to add the gem shop. We did that last year. So we're getting their artwork all around. And then from there, after that, the next slide, we involve ourselves a lot with other classrooms and with other special areas. So I just kind of give some quick examples here. But that makes us, we have to have a degree of flexibility, a great deal of flexibility, so we can really bounce ideas off each other and support each other. So just some quick examples with music, Chinese New Year parade, and then with field days, this last year was exciting with the Olympics, and we made flags. Eric Murphy had a great idea of each different classroom having a different country, so we really explored different flags. Library, we did a big project on Dot Day when they had that in town there and in school. And then kindergarten, I worked closely with personal space mats this past year in the beginning, kids learning their own space in their mats, and when we're all sitting together in a big group. And so we decorated our mats. And then first grade, the seed feast that happens in the beginning or in the fall every school year. Animal studies was big in second grade, country studies in third grade, and then at the end of fourth grade when they have their big ceremony at the end, their self-portraits. So that's a fun project to collaborate with. Then from there, middle school.
Great. All right. So that's my blank slide.
So before you get going, so when they're young and you start talking to them about self-exploration and sort of, I would imagine just sort of expressing themselves, right, in some way to art. How often do you come across a kid unable to do that? It does.
Yep, it does. And
so what do you do then, right?
That's
because it seems like everybody wants to make a mess with paints or do art of some sort. So what happens when some of the students sort of struggle to find ways to do that because maybe it's just not common in where they're coming from to be able to do that? How do you deal with that?
Definitely, yeah. So the guiding questions is a big part of that. So that's where I'm really trying to just have very informal conversations with them. So in the beginning of the class, we have group conversations that really kind of get some ideas flowing. But then if I notice that a kid is kind of struggling when they're sitting down, so I walk around talking one-on-one with them and talk just just simple questions. It could be just about what they ate for breakfast in the morning, and then how from.
And so that really helps just take them through it.
Yeah,
because they can draw what they have for breakfast.
Yeah, and, but then you can, so it doesn't have to stop there. It could be, well, what does your kitchen look like? What's that table look like? Do you have a place in it? So that from there, we can really pull upon.
Do you identify the engineers early, the ones who draw right angles versus the ones who draw curves?
There definitely are students who ask for a ruler every But it's exciting because everyone has something that they.
Thanks for that, Sarah. Appreciate that.
All right. So in middle school art, we have, you can go next. We have 5th through 8th grade. The kids have 42 minutes with me 5 days a week for 10 weeks. Usually I have for sections of each grade. Currently, there's a 5th section of 5th grade because it's a bubble group. One of the 5th grade team teachers is teaching one of those classes. So I do a lot of just continuing the foundational work that Sarah's putting into place, working with materials, tools, techniques, resources. 8th grade has been doing portraits. They work on grid portraits. 7th grade has been working with plaster to create a 3D sculptural piece. We work with the elements and principles of art to try and get them ready for working with Ellen on those, along with trying to put in some of the postmodern principles, things like juxtaposition, representation, combining text and image, help the students better understand contemporary art practices. And then something called Studio Habits of Mind, which is a practice coming from Harvard. And the idea is that students, through helping the students understand this process that they're going through in making, they can better take charge of that learning and that process. So studio habits of mind include things like envisioning, practicing a craft, revision, stretching and exploring.
Mindset.
Yes. So here's an example of a 8th grader in sort of a foundational project working on grid portraiture, line techniques, value. This was his first time using
Can
circle.
you put the lights down,
It was
Lisa? Would you
amazing.
mind moving those lights?
This is halfway done. You have to see it
You
done.
don't care, right? Do you care? We don't care if the lights are.
So, yeah, about at this stage, I asked him and a couple other students to come in and they made teaching videos, just sort of showing how they were doing what they were doing. While I do the demos, I thought it would be great for the kids to be able to see their peers showing how they did. And then those were available through Google Classroom for the other kids to view.
So he drew that.
Yeah. That was an outstanding one.
Wow.
Yeah, he's very, very proud of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. All right, next. So, along with continuing that foundational work, I try to really help the students think like artists. So, as much as possible, we work with projects where they are creating meaning. Sometimes that's through giving them a big idea. So 5th grade worked with the big idea of the natural world, which connected to their curriculum. But they also took it on as a really personal and was challenge. How can we say something that might make our natural world, our world better? So that middle project there is an example of that. And then we also look a lot at artists' work and think about what is the intent of this artist. And sometimes students, when they do critique of each other's work, the big question will be, what do you think the intent of this person is? And so reflecting on that, are you getting your message across? I feel like that's very important with middle school, so that they know that they have visual literacy skills, that they can go out, they can go to a museum or anywhere where there's visual content and have an idea of what's going on there. And I think they have those skills, they just don't understand that they have them.
So with that in mind, certainly we're not talking about this kind of art, we're talking about the stuff they see online. And that sort of artwork, right? That there's a certain amount of literacy just seeing images we see every day and
Well,
consume
images,
every day.
yeah, throughout our world. I mean, signs,
I mean, you're talking,
billboards.
yeah, that's exactly right. We're
museum
talking
art.
about just how we comprehend visual images when you start talking
Yeah.
about intent, right? And don't you artist types like sort of have art just for no intent, because I say it is sort of thing? Do you allow that sort of thing, or is that what Ellen gets?
Yeah,
I see that.
that's what my kids,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I say it is.
So here's an example of a student working with the big idea inside outside 7th grade plaster project. So they learned how to work with the plaster. They created this form. Their big idea was inside outside. And so the spectrum of results was just outstanding. The students wrote a statement to go with it. which to me just really illuminated the thought behind the piece. You see the piece and you don't quite always get all the understanding, all the information that the student was thinking, and then having the student write that is great for them, and sometimes they develop their ideas about further through the writing process. So this is just a general, some things that happen in middle school art. There's an annual 7th grade trip to Corning Museum of Glass. Sorry, that was my mistake. So that's been continuing. Great opportunity for the kids to make and learn. 5th grade, because of this bubble group, a lot of cross-curricular things have been happening, including Johnson trip that will happen Wednesday, Thursday. Community read projects. Last year, my first year, I really jumped on that. The kids did a recycled art project in 5th grade. It was very exciting, so I plan on doing that again with our community learn this year. And then continuing with the community art displays, and we're working on a development of a Facebook page.
Okay, and that brings you to the high school. So what's great is that I have students now who have received all this awesome training from elementary up through middle, and then they come to high school and they can finally take that class every day for a whole year. So that's one of the biggest complaints when they come in, when I say, you know, not that they are in there every day for a whole year, I said that, yes, we're finally in here every day for a whole year. So that's a really good thing to have happen to these kids, because they've been getting such excellent training ahead of time. So I'm just going to show you the classes that are currently happening in the high school with some of those highlight things that we do. So in high school we have studio art, which is the intro class. This is where they get their 1 art credit that they need for high school. It's every day, 40 minutes a day, and you can see some students here working with Chinese brush calligraphy, working with a figure, working with color theory, and if you go to the next slide, one of those highlights that we do in studio art, where they're getting a lot of exposure to artists, medium, all that. They do a sculpture project towards the end of the year where we're working 3-dimensionally, and we're working with the Northwest Coast Native Americans and looking at the designs, looking at their culture, and then emulating that style or choosing a different style and creating these gigantic masks. And then we do a performance piece of it through the elementary school, where we start at one end of the school and walk all the way through the school, and the kids line the hallways, and it's a ton of fun. If you ever want to know what it's like to be famous, that's like the time. We will walk down the halls, wave at anybody, and it's very exciting. And the kids really love that, and we tell them to embody the spirit of the mask. So, you know, if they're a bear, you know, they gotta do this. So that's really kind of a fun performance piece as well. Next slide. Once they have completed studio art, then they're eligible to take advanced studio, where we used to offer printmaking, sculpture, painting, drawing as semester-long courses. We no longer do that now. We have had to condense them into advanced studio art. So the kids now are taking that for a full year and getting a similar experience. We take longer, we investigate more, we look deeper into those methods, the artists who work with them, the history behind those. Like 1 year we might work extensively with pastels, acrylics. Another year, this year in particular, we're working with oils. We're working with some printmaking. So every year it changes just a little bit. We're introducing different things for the kids to work with. Here's a picture of a student matting her work, getting it ready to show down at the library. This was from our Youth Arts Month a few years back with the gigantic sculpture. If you go to the next slide. The advanced class gets to also do some collaborations with, this year we did a collaboration with the technology department and the Ulysses Christmas Bureau, and we painted the toys that the students made. We also collaborated with the Chamber of Commerce and made some snowflakes down for Atlas Bowl with the bowling ball, which was a lot of fun. This class, they are really committed to art, and it shows in their artwork. Next slide, please. Once you get past advanced, so some students might take advanced for 2 years. We call that in between year kind of an AP prep year. So they're building up their portfolio, getting that breadth experience of working with a variety of media. And then they get to the AP level, which is college level. And they're creating a portfolio that is very involved. It has 12 breadth pieces, which shows their range of what they can do, what they can accomplish, and a concentration piece, which is them focusing on kind of like what Rachel was talking about, a big idea, this is what my idea is, and this is how I'm going to then produce all these images associated with that, and how I'm going to explore that. And so this is all work currently done by our AP students this year. And their work is out here in the district office display case as well. The one on the top right won a gold key at Scholastics, which is a show that we participate in every year in, at the Arnott Art Museum. And to the left of that, that was also that's Celeste Withiams, and she also won a silver key for that, I believe. Advanced placement is a great stepping stone. This year I have one of the largest classes I've had in a while for that, and that was 8 students. And they're all going on into art careers. So we've been talking a lot lately about art careers and where they see themselves in their future. Yeah.
Whoa.
I know, 8.
Yep.
That's pretty
8 across a few years.
Right,
Not
I know,
all
right,
seniors.
8. Right. So they're a remarkable group of talented young ladies. Yeah, and that's because there was a couple other students who were unable to get into the class because they had the scheduling, wasn't going to work out for them, and they were already signed up to take, 4 other AP classes, which is difficult to do.
When you started, you said, they're coming well trained. They don't obviously get enough time with I would say, as much as maybe we'd like in the younger years, but enough. They come in and they can have art every day. How many students per class come in and are like kids in the candy store? How many do you get that first year coming through want to be in there every day?
Who want to be in there every day? I would say 12 or 15. Like who? I mean, like after school, that kind of thing.
No,
I would say like maybe 1 or 2 out of the class don't want to be there. Like it's like the one that they will do. Because maybe there isn't a performance element to it,
Right.
like for music, or which they don't know they have to put a mask on and parade through the office. But they have a lot. Most of them truly want to be there, especially
And they have to be there.
Yeah. And it's one of their options as far as the credit goes for the art credit. All right, next.
These are choices, though. The next 2 are choices.
Yes, correct.
And then those you get what? 8 to 10, to 10 to 12, 12 to 15.
I would say I have probably 22, 24.
And that's across sophomore and junior year.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's great.
That's
So one of the highlights we had this year, and like right now, those girls in the AP class are like superstars. Other students really look up to them. They request, help from them, and when they talk to them, it's very exciting. That they're giving them some opportunity to discuss some ideas. So we got to go to the National Portfolio Day at the University of Syracuse, which was a ton of fun. They got to talk to all sorts of schools, looked at their portfolios. Micah, Pratt, they just love that. That's really empowering for them, and the recruiters are really excited to see their work too. We also had a collaboration with the Trumansburg Chamber of Commerce for Winterfest. The AP class created that beautiful sculpture that was downtown that lit up at night. They look kind of cold there because that was a cold day when we put it up. Next slide, please. And so we also teach 2 sections of ceramics. Ceramics A is taught in the fall, and that is now a TC3 class, so they get dual credit. They get college credit for that. So basic hand building techniques every day for a half a year. Next slide. please. An exciting thing that we do in ceramics is the outdoor raccoon fire, where we take their artwork and we take it outside and put it in a trash can and then we light it on fire, which is a
Not
ton
in
of
the
fun.
building, not in the building, and I
No.
noticed a fire extinguisher.
Always, right, always in the visitor parking lot, and you can see, they're very excited about it, they mostly get excited about the cookies. And then, at the end of that year, or at the end of that class, we also do a tea ceremony. So we learn a little bit about the Japanese culture, we learn a little bit about how it's performed, how it's created, and then we invite a guest of honor and we decide where we're gonna have our tea ceremony. Next slide. And then the follow-up class to that is Ceramics B, which is all on the wheel. And this is a fun picture of students just learning how to throw on the wheel. It's very kind of intimidating when you sit down at your own wheel. So what I have them do is partner up, and so it all looks ridiculous, right? So they partner up and start working on that, and before you know it, they're working on the wheel by themselves and doing a great job with it too. And that's every day, again, for a half a year. So the next slide with that. Our big fun event for Ceramics V is the Feats of Clay at the Onondaga Community College. And it's kind of like a big clay Olympics where we do all sorts of crazy events on the potter's wheel, like a no-hands throw, who can throw the tallest vessel, who can build the tallest vessel. And then usually the kids get really incredibly dirty and they have a hose to clean off with. This year at our EM show, we brought the potter's wheels out into the hallway so kids could see how that works, and a bunch of elementary age kids got on the opposite side of the wheel just like we did the first day of class and got to throw some pieces, and they absolutely loved it, and the kids got really excited about it too. My kids got really excited about it. We also did a collaboration with Mary Ellen Salmon and the Empty Bowls Project, researching hunger in our community, hunger in our nation, worldwide. Students made some posters and did some bowls as well. Next slide. Rachel teaches this class, so I'm going to have her talk about that.
So this year we had one section of digital photography. It was a half year, 5 days a week, 40 minutes every day. We begin digital photography with camera basics, composition basics, then we go into using Adobe Photoshop, and finally the students do a research project on a photographer of their choice, and then do a series of images that emulate or respond to that photographer's style.
And Rachel also teaches studio art, a section of studio art in the high school as well. So next slide. And we also have independent study students. It happens every year. Students aren't able to get into a class that they want, and so they come to me, they say, I've got this idea for an art project, or I want to study this, and we come up with a plan and put it into action and do independent studies. Sometimes it's for a full year, sometimes it's for a half year. And that's the end of the high school slides. So next is art enrichment.
So everyone knows about our Youth Art Month that happens throughout the month of March. That is where we spend every waking second, I feel like we just do on all these different activities with students, with having after-school workshops where we have visiting artists come in and show off the new technique or a new medium, and then we, at the end of the month, have a large art show that displays all the creations throughout the workshops, as well as just artwork that was made in the classroom. We also do that month a weekend community mural event where everyone in the community can come in and work on a giant mural. As you can see the picture all the way down at the bottom of the right, and then we display that at the art show. The next one, supporting and planning for the Classrooms Workshop, happened this year, which was a really exciting way for us to collaborate with other special areas, and it was a fun way for kids to get more experience with different processes. In elementary, we made paper, which was really exciting that they could come in and help with that. Then art shows throughout the whole school year. We touched upon briefly throughout, and it goes all throughout the year through the summer at the fair, and then starts right up in the beginning of the school year with the airport art show. The NYSADA presentations and our membership. This was really exciting, and we continue to be NYSADA members, but this past year we all attended the NYSADA conference, and we were able to attend different workshops to develop our own professional development, but also we were presenters at one of the workshops, and we presented how to kickstart Youth Art Month in your school. So we were able to show up how we have.
So ATA means Art Teacher Association? What is it?
Yeah,
What is NYSADA?
well, it's the New York State Art Teachers Association.
Art Teachers Association.
And then as well as community collaborations, and then the Facebook page, which is a way to branch out and talk with families.
It's just an association.
So just some future considerations. We've been thinking a bit about how can we have some more creative scheduling solutions that might enable things like for ceramics sequences to be extended, or to accommodate some of those students that are like coming to Ellen, we need independent studies. So how can we work with that? And then electives that really fit the students' needs and interests. As the new national standards were rolled out in 2014, and New York State standards are currently being revised and edited, we're really looking at, so how are we evolving with these? What are we already doing? Which is quite a bit that is responding to this, such as students taking more ownership of display, writing statements, and along with that, exploring potentials for new ways of running our classrooms. Sort of the last big push in our